Hey folks, and welcome to West Wickham Walk and Talk Part 1. Starting here just by the White Lodge. This is Pond Cottage Lane that actually marks the boundary between the London Borough of Bromley and the London Borough of Kent. That is Crittenden Lodge. I'll talk a bit more about that shortly. Very much continuing from the Shirley videos along Wickham Road. Here is the River Beck. Not really flowing as such at the moment, but there is water in there despite this very dry summer. And that is the Alders. More about that in a bit. A few people commented after the Shirley videos about the KFC site, so I'm going to start there, talk a bit about what went on here. So this is KFC today. Pond House used to exist over in this direction. Pond House was an old coaching inn known as the King's Arms. Now, licence entries go back to 1753 when the licensee was John Wicker. In 1821, Edward Little acquired the property for his own use and renamed it Pond House. In 1944, there was damage from a flying bomb attack and it was demolished in 1946, and the site is now covered by Crittenden Lodge, which is the property we see just on the other side of the fence here. So the licence passed to a nearby weatherboarded beer house known as the White Hart. Now, this building goes back to 1908. In 2008, the White Hart closed. After that, it was opened as La Rioja, and in 2017, opened as KFC. What I like about it is that they've retained so much of the structure of the building. Yes, they've added bits on the side to accommodate it as its current use, a drive-through restaurant, but we've still got the dovecote that we can actually see at the top, or at least the remains of. It's not active now, it's all closed in. Lovely that there is still a nod to the past, to this 1908 building here in 2025. I've just crossed over the road. It was remarkably quiet, so I took my chance, crossing into the Alders. And the source of this walk is loosely based on a book co-authored by Joyce Walker. And Joyce had written a number of books about West Wickham, and it was a very rich source for my research. So these apartments here, relatively new. In years gone by, this was basically a narrow lane lined with hazelnut hedges, not alder. So a little bit more about the history. So there wasn't much here, to be honest, but until 1986 stood the last two Victorian cottages. They'll be just up here on the right hand side. I can show you on the map. These cottages were built for brothers William and Thomas Durling when they married in the 1830s. William raised 12 children in his cottage. That might have been quite cosy. While Thomas, who soon after his marriage was made a gamekeeper, moved to a cottage in Well Wood, which is off Lamb's Road. Riverside walk there, noted. I believe it's all private in there. Thomas Durling's cottage became home to the Acton family, who had lived previously in White Lodge in Wickham Road. So White Lodge we saw, well, behind me at the beginning, we saw in the Shirley video. Mrs. Acton had been employed to open the gates for Mrs. Lloyd of Monk's Orchard when she drove out in her carriage and pair. It was very roughly in this kind of area that the two old cottages were that survived until 1986. I have to say that West Wickham has some lovely discoveries, and I decided to break this down into series so that I can do the research, release a video and give you some little snippets along the way, some digestible chunks, rather than just some super long videos. So see it as a kind of a mini series all on West Wickham, working eastwards from the sort of Shirley part of Croydon. I'm referring to my notes again. So this is where the Alders comes down to the main road, and it says you will see where blocks of flats have taken the place of a farmhouse We have blocks of flats. There's no way of knowing what was here before, but the maps show it. Smith's Dairy Farm was here. There are elements of this where one has to use their imagination somewhat. So some changes have clearly happened from when the main book was published in 1990, because it says, in your mind's eye, replace Squire's timber premises, well, this is Travis Perkins, West Wickham service station and beyond, with a group of cottages with long front gardens. They were called Victoria cottages. I can show you on a map what was here in this area previously. And it says over the road is the very distinctive Roman Catholic church, opened in 1963, sometimes known as the Threepenny Bit Church. And I love this comment in the book. In pre-decimal days, the bronze 3D piece was 8-sided, as is the church, hence the nickname. I kind of think that there's quite a few people that follow my channel that know what a threepenny bit piece is, but you can see that the shape of a threepenny bit piece matches the shape of the church over the road. So that's the Roman Catholic Church. Quite a bit of development took place in the 1930s, and that'll be evident by the style that we see. The next reference, it says there was another group of cottages on that side of the road where the new Safeways, well, of course that's now been replaced by Sainsbury's, stands, and that was Stevenson's cottages. Next to them was Mr. Sparrow's coach building works and the home of the Volunteer Fire Brigade, commanded by Captain Joseph Killick. Almost opposite the Finer garage, which is a shell garage with a Londis, was the misleadingly named Manor House. So that was over in this area now, much easier to see on the map. It was generally a manor house rather than the manor house, because the manor house for the area was Wickham Court, further along down the hill and to the right a bit. So Manor House was this broad area, and the house was there from late 18th century until it was demolished in 1928. So that was Manor House, a manor house, not the manor house. So Sainsbury's takes over quite a large plot, but it does say, next to Mr. Sparrow's work stood and still stands the Wheatsheaf Public House, dating back to at least 1825. And then almost opposite is the Jehovah's Witness meeting place, once an infant school, converted to a chapel of ease in 1878 and deconsecrated when the parish of St. Francis was inaugurated in 1933. And now it's called the New Church Centre. Whilst not specifically called out in my research material, I do love the styling of the Wheatsheaf Parade, very much 1930s. And what it does say is to keep an eye out on the next set of shops, many of which are converted residential properties. And nowadays I think we walk along perhaps with our heads down, looking at our mobile devices, not all of us, but some of us, and we don't always look up and see. So we got from the restaurant over there, the Subway, Curry Corner, Rowland Brothers, and even here, Robert Vincent, acupuncture, snappy photos, all look more residential than commercial properties. My next instruction is to cross over and head down Sussex Road. Closer view at some of these places. I think that's what gives West Wickham a lot of its character. There's a lot of individuality. There are still brand names here, of course, or chains in terms of properties and businesses, but there's also a lot of much smaller concerns, and that gives it a lot of character. So Sussex Road, turn into Sussex Road, where a motor repairer's shop stands on the site of an old forge. I am in Sussex Road. and I can see S&S services. Not open today, but that is the site of an old forge. And it says to follow the road round into North Road, Surrey Road and Kent Road. All of this area was once known as Pix Park or Pig Park, where cricket was played. It says look out for the day centre in Sussex Road. So Medhurst Hall and Wickham Hall. Used to be the lecture hall. The first lecture hall was put up in 1878, but replaced by the existing structure around 1904. Just going to take a quick look at the old Congregational Chapel site, opened in 1888. It's just down here on the corner. Some very, very nice houses along here. And apart from the siren sound that just went by in the background, it's nice and quiet, just in from the main high street. So this is North Road. There's Surrey, Sussex and Kent roads here, and this is the site of the old Congregational Church. So we have a memorial stone here laid by E.F. Duncanson Esquire, September the 21st, 1887. Glad they keep these things open and available to read and learn about. So looks to be quite quiet today in the hall. Now, the entry in my research relates to Killick's. It says on the corner of Sussex Road is Killick's, the firm founded in 1879 by James Killick, who had married Maria Durling, one of Thomas's 8 children. The Killick family had lived in West Wickham for over 200 years, and their intermarrying with other families of long standing, Durling, Dumbrell, Watts, etc., has ensured that even now there are still many descendants of the old village people. So this is now Rowland's. They occupy this site. Previously was Killick's. And I wonder, are you connected to any of the families from old West Wickham? If you are, let me know in the comments. An opportunity to cross, and where it says Carpetright, you could possibly almost tell by the style of the building that it used to be Woolworths. It's not even Carpetright now, they're closed. But I'm instructed to cross the road and make my way behind Woolworths. I'm going to have to tell you why I can't actually show you what it says in the reading material, but I'll explain why. Now, there's something quite special about this car park, and you might be thinking, what's he going on about? So I'm in the car park, and roughly behind me is Springfield House. The information I had doing the research said that this was a Dr. Bernardo's home. It was a social club, it was all manner of things, but more recently it's become private accommodation. So Springfield House, the building, still exists. There's properties all around it, and also there was an estate agent spec from a recent property sale there, so we can actually have a look inside at what the property looks like today. Wonderful that it still exists. It's actually in a private road, so I chose not to go up there and film, just to respect the privacy. But it does look like a wonderful property, and brilliant that it's preserved. In terms of the car park, well, for now, take in this plot. Sort of odd shaped car park, really, kind of semicircle-ish. Backs onto the shops that run all the way along the high street there. But this was once a kitchen garden of what we're going to learn about more next, and is the final part of this first section, or part 1, of the walk and talk of West Wickham. So just coming back out onto the main high street, and I'll highlight this another wonderful shopping parade, as it says at the top there, Broadway Market 1933. Lovely 1930s style all the way along there. But also, if we take a pan from the edge of Marks, M&S Food Hall, and go all the way along to what is Carpet World and Braemar Gardens. Well, many moons ago, this would have been the site of Wickham Hall, a huge property. One of the more famous owners was Gustav Mellin. We'll look at what's left of it in a minute, because there's some very impressive remains of Wickham Hall. So let's cross over and check that out. So this is where you enter the car park for Marks and Spencer's. And we've got three fairly distinctive milk bottle shapes here, because it used to be Unigate Dairies. It was also a printer's, and you can get an idea of just how stylish a building it was. This was the stable block of Wickham Hall. I mean, look at the work on those windows. Wonderful. So I'm going to stand back a bit and try and avoid being run over. Busy car park. I mean, set off nicely against the sky today. It's grade 2 listed, thankfully, but an absolutely beautiful example. So this was originally the stable block for the hall. It was a Unigate dairy. There was a printing works in another part of the building, and it's M&S currently. I'm basically going to look at this from all possible angles, leave no stone unturned in the celebration of this this building. I mean, look at it. I mean, you could argue it's out of place, and there'll be other aspects of the West Wickham tour in some of the later parts that you might think, yeah, I'd never considered that. But this is, you know, it's just a very multi-layered story, like so many other places. So we've got another milk bottle here. It'd be nice to go round and see if there's anything inside that has any remaining references, but yeah, just look at this. Incredible. Storage area for Marks. Looks to be some maybe aircon or something going on in there. Flats, a well-being centre. Again, I'll come back and show you some angles. Really quite something. Again, if you think of this generally being constructed as a stable block, you can understand the quote of someone saying they look like they were being built for a cavalry regiment. What's the saying? Delusions of grandeur? Who knows? He spent a lot of money here and had sons that went to war and all sorts. And eventually it was sold off, demolished, rebuilt. Although this, thankfully, was protected. Wickham Hall stable block. Let's go and have a look from the other side. Hear a bit more of the story of Wickham Hall. I want to praise Marks and Spencer's because they've obviously respected what they've had here and given it good life. And I've seen that they've done that in, well, at least one other local place. There are plans for the old dairy down at Purley. So they will add to it, but they'll preserve the building structure. They will almost meet my ideal needs, which is to make a nod to the past, retain what you can, but repurpose it for the current and the future. Really, really clever ideas. So this is Kent Road. We've had Surrey, Kent and Sussex. And other angles of the old stable block. Wonderful tower there, clock on the other side. Now, locals may know all about this, but if one or two residents of West Wickham had never really known, then I'm delighted that I've been able to tell the story of this quite fantastic building. So we saw the other side of this just now in the car park. Wanted to complete the experience for you. And we're just going to residential properties ultimately. So that's where we've just been, the Wellbeing Centre. Gustav Mellin was the person who bought this property and rebuilt it on a very elaborate scale. I mentioned the reference to housing a cavalry, and the place was packed with artworks, and he got Italian craftsmen over, and I believe there was no sort of spare space anywhere. It was all occupied by something, some sort of piece of artwork. And he made his fortune from baby food. He was a master of advertising, advertised in, you know, London, Piccadilly Circus and magazines and everywhere. And it was a real example of the power of advertising and how that can lead to financial success. But I'm not sure the locals completely went along with it. You know, it occupied a huge plot. There were references to Buckingham Palace. Some people said it looked like that on the landscape. Originally Carpenter's farm going back to the 15th century, so the plot of land was quite big. It didn't last that long. It was sold off. He passed away. His wife did live in it for a bit longer, but eventually pulled down, redeveloped, and many years later Marks and Spencer's respectfully looking after the site, or certainly the stable block. So yeah, Gustav Mellin, quite a story. Look him up. I'll put a link actually to the talk that was done by the Bromley Borough Local History Society, and there are a couple of other references I found, so I'll put them all in the description below and you can have a look. So we finish at the location of Wickham Hall. That was the end of part one of Phil's Walk and Talk West Wickham. Loads more to see here, loads more to uncover. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please stay tuned, subscribed and follow the channel. I really appreciate that. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.